Hello, welcome. How are you both doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Are we coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Look, to kick off, why don't you just give us a quick intro into who you both are and what you're building at Sava?
Cool. So I'm Ren on the right here.
I'm Raf.
We are the founders of Sava. And really, yeah, in a nutshell, Sava is really about building basically a foundational technology for the future of preventative and personalized health. So our fundamental belief is that if we unlock people to monitor their health continuously, real time, we're really talking about the free-flowing molecules that you would typically go in a lab to get tested for, then we would just dramatically change the way that people can monitor and take care of their well-being and their health in general. And so what we're doing is really exactly that. The technology we built allows people to monitor their health continuously in real time. And you can really think about it like a next-gen wearable. So like a connected patch that you place on your arm, you connect to your phone, and it just streamlines all that information directly to your phone for you to access whenever you want, wherever you are. And yeah, so that's kind of a bit in short. We're starting with glucose, blood sugar. There's a lot of continuous glucose monitors out there, so happy to dive into how we're different to that. But really, long term, it's about unlocking not only glucose, but a lot of different molecules in the body, and really expanding rapidly towards that direction.
Amazing.
And what first inspired you to start?
Yeah,
Sava?
and just like hardware
Yeah.
in consumer.
Yeah.
That's like the impossible level.
That's what a lot of people said, impossible.
Tell us more, like the origins. How did you land on this?
The origins, well, we started at Imperial College, it's years ago now. And we started because we had the belief that there was nothing out there to actually monitor molecules inside your body in real time in a similar fashion that a wearable was doing it. So we're like, it would be incredible if you could combine the ease of use of a wearable, let's say an Oura-ring, an Apple Watch, with deep health indicators that you could only get from going to a lab. And the only devices out there were continuous glucose monitors that are currently used for diabetic patients. But they basically had a couple of flaws, including, I mean, they're incredible because they revolutionized the way diabetic patients access their essentially glucose data and dose their insulin, but they really don't look like a product designed for an everyday consumer. And so we're like, well, the only way for us to be able to essentially provide this to a user would be to build our own hardware. And that's how we ended up going on this crazy endeavor of building hardware and a medical device combined, basically.
Yeah,
wow.
Amazing. And look, you had some great news last week. You just raised a big round of funding, and I think as part of that,
Round of applause.
as part of that, you talked about some clinical trials. Can we talk about the clinical trials first? Like, what were you testing? What were the results? And then we want to get onto the funding round as well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, as you might have seen on the press release, we've announced that we've achieved a world first with a microsensing platform. And the world first was basically the ability for our sensing platform to measure continuously over 10 days glucose data. And we compared this with state-of-the-art CGMs. And we've shown that our platform performs as well as a continuous glucose monitor. And this is part of a bigger trial in partnership with the University of Oxford and Cambridge, where we're testing our technology essentially with type 1 and type 2 diabetics. And it's incredible because no other company, no other research group has been able to achieve this. The max that some research groups or companies have been able to achieve is 5 days at best. And so our aim was like, if this product, if we want to make this product successful, it has to be able to perform as well as state of the art. So our aim from day one was we need to be able to reach at least 10 days. And so we've relentlessly been working on this.
Is that because you hired like incredibly well, and you've got a team of people that are able to just, they're the best, people that you could ever have to be able to get those results? Is that why?
I would say definitely the team is absolutely incredible. It's exceptional. I think it's also like a little bit about the fact that Raf and I, going back to our roots, actually got a lot of exposure in all the technologies that were getting developed back in the days. So we were stubborn enough to think that we think we can make it, and we can. Not a lot of people believe that in hindsight at the beginning, but
Kudos to you guys.
say with data. So we just stuck our heads deep into the problem and just try to solve it.
That's good. It's always good to be like a little bit deluded. Right?
Yeah.
'Cause if you're not, then you're just never going to start it.
Yeah, you've got to. Yeah, you've got to.
Hindsight, my advice to anyone trying to start a company like this one would be just don't do it. And if you can't to not do it, then go ahead and try.
If no's not an option. Yeah.
Worse to live
So
by.
sick.
But I guess the other element in deep tech, especially, is that our first maybe 500 prototypes did not work.
Wow.
And we only had essentially one sensor that worked. And that gave us enough strength to continue pushing, to continue iterating. Otherwise, like we could have stopped after like 100 prototypes. We were like, okay, this thing is not going to work. But in the end, we continued iterating. We continued changing how we manufacture, looking at like how the skin reacts to our sensors. Like it took a lot of effort. It was like 2-3 years of like no data before getting any sort of good, okay data, basically.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, you've
Wow.
got the perseverance that you've shown to get to here is amazing.
Yeah.
Was it the clinical trials and the success of those trials that unlocked the Series A for you, or was there other things that kind of enabled you to raise that money?
I'll say partly yes, for sure. So obviously the world first, I mean, glucose monitoring continuously, it's always been a bit of a holy grail in the whole medical device space. So a lot of people have been in anticipation of how do we dislodge these two massive companies that have a monopoly and have been growing extremely fast. And everyone's just trying to look at alternatives that could improve on user experience, costs, so on and so forth. The biggest thing, what are the proof points that people want to see? And duration aware, at least in the microsensing space, has always been one of the big ones. So that's been tremendously helpful to unlock more capital. But there's so many other things going on right now in the industry. I mean, the space is growing so fast, right? So there's a convergence of medical device industries and consumer companies, right? Aura is working with Dexcom. Apple wants to go into health. Medical device companies are trying to become broader in consumer. So all of these things are happening. And also our ability to be able to crunch data like is becoming so good, right? With AI, it's like you can just basically shove your data and your results, your lab results. I'm not incentivizing anyone to do it, but like if you do it, it's pretty incredible what they can do. But right now what we're missing is the foundational information, right? So if we can actually go into longitudinal data, I think people now can see that we can unlock insights in health that we weren't possible to be able to be derived before. And I think now it's just becoming so clear that we can do this. So it's been a lot of things just coming in together, I think.
That's insane. I think this is probably like in my opinion personally, I feel it's the space that I find the coolest because you have this sort of like hard tech element, this deep tech element with the AI on the back, but you're also selling it to consumers, right? You have to model it around like what does the consumer want, and you have to think, the color, the name, the weight, where do you put it on the body, but you can't put it, it has to be either on your wrist or your temples or on your chest because it picks up it's to do with like the skin temperature and like the sweat is used in many ways. I think maybe for the Whoop anyway. There are so many sort of psychological elements involved in it around the product as well. Question for you guys is like, how are you thinking about that realm? That actually packaging it up into a product that someone wants to buy. Is it like you're going to sort the data layer out first and kind of get a proof of concept going and then start looking at that?
From I suppose, hardware product itself, I think what has been up until now, these big CGM companies have, in a way, neglected users from a pure consumer point of view, in the sense that the products look like medical devices. They look white, they look gray. Like you don't really want to wear them. You wear them because you have to wear them. And so when we started the company initially, we were like, why couldn't we get a Apple user experience in the world of medical devices? And so from day one, we were like, people should be able to personalize their devices. People should be able to be proud of what they're wearing and not be in fear of people knowing that they're wearing a CGM.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Are you seeing the kind of like the growth of Whoop? Whoop's going into like very kind of top spec data and basically health data. What do you see in terms of their ability to tap into that kind of like athlete market and then, you know, expand their market and go into more kind of just general consumers? Would you use that as almost like a playbook in your kind of go-to-market kind of function?
I think we're a bit different in the way that so we've kind of taken the approach of going, you know, performance athletes and slowly trying to move a little bit more medical. I would say with a lot of the features that are announcing now, we're actually taking a very different approach. So we're actually starting with building a technology that can perform to medical standards in terms of accuracy. Right? So we're really competing against people that do clinical studies with people with diabetes and really like heavily regulated markets and industries, and then expanding beyond that, right? So which is pretty challenging, and I think there's not a lot of examples of companies that are trying to build in this crossover space. But we ultimately believe that no matter what the use case is going to be, having reliable data is always going to be critical, no matter what the use case is, even if it's not medical. So starting from building something that, at least technologically speaking, has the accuracy that you can stand behind and say, this is actually reliable, really scientifically robust data, and then unlock use cases beyond that is something that we actually believe is going to be very important, no matter what the use case in the long term is going to be. And if you look at athletes, when you look at professional athletes, they actually want the best in class technologies, right? So they typically go into medical devices and get medical devices and try to do lab tests. They try to do, they draw their blood, and they actually are really keen on getting the best in class technology to unlock insights. And they typically don't go with less reliable devices and then try to adapt it into their training regimen. We just believe that the movement's going to be the other way around, most probably, when you look at this type of technologies.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say one last point is that Whoop has been marketed as a, I would say, elite type of product. So it is actually pretty costly, even though you might not see it initially, but it's pretty much the same price as an Apple Watch, if not higher, if you look at it over like 2-3 years. In our case, what we've seen when we initially started the company is that these products that are out there, these continuous glucose monitors, are so expensive, they're prohibitively expensive. The only reason why people have access to them is because they're reimbursed. But if you look in other markets, let's say in India, in Mexico, in South America, like they'll never have access to a technology like this if the price doesn't go down. And so that was one of our requirements when we started the company. It has to be affordable so we can provide access to world-class technologies to a greater number, basically. Because at the moment, only 1% of people with diabetes have access to a CGM, wow, which is about 10 million people. So there's literally 650, 700 million people living with diabetes that don't have access to a CGM.
And are you staying laser focused on glucose monitoring, or are you starting to think about other use cases for some of the biosensing and looking at different products or different conditions, different things that you can track with similar technology?
Glucose is definitely laying the foundation for the technology, basically. It's laying the foundation for what can be achieved. But for us, we want to go way beyond diabetes, way beyond glucose, and the long-term vision of the company is multi-analyte sensing. We truly believe in a world where people will be able to track molecules flowing their body, under their skin in real time, anything from lactic acid for athletes, cortisol to measure stress, hydration markers, you name it. And the reason why we essentially chose to measure in this compartment of the skin, which is the interstitial fluid, is because it correlates so well with blood. So for us, it's more of a how fast can we move into other molecules rather than will the demand be there. Like it will require more effort, it will require R&D to be able to measure more molecules, but in the end, we have no doubt that people will want to wear a product that can measure more than one molecule at a time.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any visibility or views on what you think the next thing might be?
There's a couple of initiatives that we already started with other molecules, for sure. right? So there's a couple that always come over and over again up, lactate, ketones being the two obvious front runners for the next steps. But there's always a bit of a Venn diagram. There's how technology-wise it's difficult to develop a new sensor and how interesting it would be. To give you an extreme example, like hormones for us would be extremely interesting, right? We know so little about the endocrine system. If you could monitor this in real time, it would be completely game-changing. But technologically speaking, it's really challenging to build a continuous hormone monitor, right? So the way that we're approaching it is, where do these two Venn diagrams meet, and where should we be focusing on to have the maximum impact in something that actually has a realistic shot at getting to market fast. And then if at some point we unlock unlimited resources and capital, and we can do all of that at the same time, then be it, we'll do it. But right now, we just have to be a bit laser focused to get them all at the same time.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, it's interesting to hear about that sort of product expansion, what you're looking at next. Is it difficult to think about market expansion? You're obviously working in a highly regulated space with UK-based clinical trials. When you get to that point, is it going to be easy or difficult to scale the product outside of UK and Europe due to regulations?
I'd say for now, luckily, it's not extremely challenging just because there are CGMs in the industry. And when you look at what we have to show in terms of performance in diabetes, it's relatively straightforward in terms of what you have to show. The technological barrier is extremely high. So that's where most of the difficulty really is. It's not really about navigating the regulatory path that is extremely difficult. What's really difficult is, can you actually meet the requirements that regulators actually set out, right? So on that perspective, I think there definitely is. I would say compared to other products, like a consumer traditional product, is definitely a little bit harder because each geography is looking at slightly different requirements. If you look at the FDA compared to CE marking here or CA marking in the UK, they're slightly different, right? So you do have to learn how to navigate all those different challenges. But having said so, yeah, I think at this point, really, the biggest question is continuous monitoring of glucose has always been a technological one primarily. Then obviously regulations are always a challenge, but since there are predicates, at least for glucose, it's something that as of now, I think the path is pretty clear.
Amazing, very cool. And when can somebody, when are you going to hit the market? When can somebody get one of these?
No, they're not. Yeah, so obviously getting a regulatory product to market is pretty hard. So right now, in the next 18 months to 2 years is really the aim for us to get a product to launch. Having said so, we will be doing early access to a product, right? So testing actually begins before that. So a bit of a call to action. If you do want to get your hands on an early Sava device, do subscribe. Do actually put your name on our website, because we will be unrolling a small batch of devices that we want to put on early adopters. And if you guys are keen, if people are keen, just feel free to just put your name on our website.
Yeah.
100%. We've got to spread that. We've got to.
I saw you've got a wait list up and running, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the inbound following the press release was astonishing. We had like thousands of people join the waiting list.
Wow.
And what was super interesting is that people wanted to try the product, and we're like, okay, so do you have diabetes? And we're like, actually, I don't have diabetes, but I just want to try the product. And they weren't necessarily biohackers. They were just people that wanted to understand what was happening in their bodies, basically in real time.
That's amazing.
Cool. I think the market is basically everyone. I mean, like, wanting to know, well, health is obviously such a huge market, but there's a massive movement, especially in the UK. I mean, people my age and kind of our age in our 20s, we want to know what's kind of going on in our bodies, and like gearing yourself to be the healthiest person you can be is definitely a huge movement.
It's like a cultural shift, right?
It's a cultural shift.
You look at the percentage of people our age, I guess, between the age of 21, or maybe a bit higher, 22 to 28, how like 0% alcohol sales in the UK, like skyrocketing. People that like ate sleep mattresses, or this sort of like TikTok health hacks, the
measuring glucose like after you've eaten breakfast and understanding what's happening to your blood glucose levels and all of that kind of stuff. Like, it is a thing.
The market's ripe and ready.
The market's ripe, ready.
Yeah, really
so get on the waiting list.
Hell yeah, nice CTA. That was like a paid
paid placement.
Free ad for you guys.
We'll clip it up and we'll push it out.
Yeah,
Look,
absolutely.
we've taken your time already, but I just wanted to like quickly talk about, you know, what's next for you guys. What's like top of mind for the next year or 2 years? Is it commercialization? Is it more trials? What are you going to be laser focused on in the next year or so?
I mean, right now we're full steams ahead towards finalizing product and accelerating towards regulatory clearance and scaling up our production capacity, right? So right now, you know, you got to make millions of CGMs to actually meet demand. So that's what we're heads down doing. And yeah, just basically really moving as fast as possible to get a product that we can finally launch really.
Insane.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Insane.
Look, we're going to be watching along, cheering you on. If there's anything that we can do to help, let us know. But it sounds like you built something that's really cool, really meaningful. And we love to see it. So yeah, congrats with it. And thank you so much for your time.
You got to come back on as well.
Yeah,
few months.
Yeah, come back on and we'll whenever there's something to announce, big news, you're pushing it out, let us know.
It's amazing.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.